So when I say the word patent, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most people, it's probably something like a shield, right? A legal force field you put up to protect your amazing new invention. But what if that's just a tiny part of the picture? What if the smartest companies out there are using patents less like a shield and more like a whole strategic toolkit? Well, that's the paradox we're going to unpack today.
So let's start with that common view, the one we all have. We can call it the patent myth.
You know, if you boil it all down, the myth says that a company files for a patent for one single fundamental reason.
And that reason is protection. Plain and simple. It gives you a temporary monopoly, a legal wall to stop anyone, and I mean anyone, from making, using, or selling your invention without your permission.
And believe me, this protection has some serious teeth. Back in 1991, Polaroid won a lawsuit against Kodak for a staggering $924.5 million. Why? Because Kodak had infringed on Polaroid's patents for instant photography. This is the poster child for using a patent as a weapon to protect your turf.
Okay, but what if I told you that entire story, that huge lawsuit, that classic example, what if that's only like 10% of the real story? What if the most sophisticated players in the game are using patents in ways that seem to completely contradict this whole idea of protection?
To really get it, we need to wrap our heads around two fundamental forces, two strategic tensions that are always pulling against each other at the very heart of patent strategy.
So the first big tug-of-war is all about how you actually make money. On one side, you've got monopoly rents. That's the Polaroid way. Lock down the technology, be the only game in town, and rake in the profits from exclusivity. But on the other side, you have this fascinating idea of ricardian rents. This is where you actually want other people to use your technology, because the more it spreads, the more valuable your other stuff becomes. Think of it like this. You don't make money on the razor, you make money on all the razor blades people have to buy.
All right, the second tension is about how you treat your rivals. Do you focus on exclusion, building fortress walls to keep everybody out? Or do you focus on cooperation? See, in a lot of high-tech industries, a patent is less of a weapon and more like currency. It's a poker chip you can use to trade, to partner, and to get access to technology that your competitors have.
Now here's where it gets really cool. When you take these two tensions, how you make money versus how you treat your rivals, and plot them against each other, you get this incredibly powerful framework of 4 distinct patent strategies. Let's break down each play.
First up is the fortress. This is the one we all know, the classic defensive move. It's all about monopoly plus exclusion. Think Polaroid. The goal is super simple. Build a wall, defend it at all costs. But there's a huge risk. A really determined competitor like Canon was with Xerox's copier patents can just find a clever way to invent around your patents, basically making your fortress walls totally irrelevant.
Next, we have the toll booth. This is where you still want those big monopoly profits, but you get there through cooperation. You basically own the only bridge into town, and you let everyone cross for a really hefty fee. Get this, in 2002, Thomson Multimedia's patent division accounted for over half of the entire company's profits, just from licensing. The risk? Greed. If your toll is too high, it gives everyone a massive incentive to pool their resources and build a brand new free bridge right next to yours. That's exactly what happened to Rambus with its memory tech.
Our third strategy is the trading card. Now, this one's a total mind-bender if you're stuck in that old way of thinking. The goal here is to profit from spreading your tech, and you do it through cooperation. Your patents become bargaining chips. This is huge in complex fields like semiconductors, where you literally can't build a single chip without using dozens of technologies patented by other companies. So you build up a big portfolio not to sue people, but to trade, to make sure you have access to everyone else's stuff. The game completely changes. Your advantage isn't owning the tech, it's how fast you can execute.
And finally, there's the pace setter. This one is, well, it's wild. It's this strange mix where you profit from diffusion, but your tactic is based on pure, relentless speed. The whole strategy is to innovate so fast that by the time your rivals finally manage to copy your last invention, you're already 2 generations ahead. You might even give away some tech for free, just to create a standard that you ultimately control. The danger? Well, it's a high-wire act. If you stumble, if you slow down for even a second, there's no patent fortress to fall back on. You're exposed.
So we have these 4 plays, right? The fortress, the toll booth, the trading card, and the pace setter. But here's where the real masters of the game separate themselves. They don't just pick a box and live there. No, they know it's all about learning how to turn the dials.
There's this great term for it, equilibration. And don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. It just means you're not looking for some perfect static balance. It's about being in a state of continuous, dynamic adjustment. It's knowing that you're always going to be managing that push and pull between cooperating and competing, and the real art is in navigating that constant shift.
And you want a perfect real-world example? Look no further than Intel. In the early 80s, they needed to get the IBM PC standard established, so they were super open and cooperative with their licenses. But once their x86 architecture was dominant, they slammed the door shut, shifting to a hardcore fortress strategy for the 286 and 386 chips. Then, by the 90s, they were masters of equilibration. They kept an iron grip on their core microprocessors, but they freely gave away other tech, like the AGP port, to boost the whole PC ecosystem, which of course just helped them sell more of their core chips. Brilliant.
So how do you actually do this? How do you manage this constant dance in the real world? It really boils down to two main dials you can turn: the number of licenses you give out and the amount of royalties you charge. Just look at this. You want to build a fortress? Easy. Very few licenses, very high royalties. Want to be a toll booth? Grant a lot of licenses, but keep those royalties high. See how it works? By adjusting just these two variables, a company can slide its position all over this strategic map.
Okay, let's bring this all together. What's the crucial point, the big takeaway from this much more sophisticated view of patents?
First off, managing patents isn't just a job for your lawyers in the back room. It is a core C-suite level strategic function. Second, the goal is not to find some perfect stable balance and then stop. It's about building a flexible, adaptable capability, that equilibration we talked about. Third, the value isn't just in the patents themselves. It's in the magic that happens when you combine those assets with the right strategy. And finally, being too extreme, too open, or too closed is often a recipe for disaster.
You know, this quote from the source paper we've been digging into just nails it. A patent is the instrument, sure, but the real power, the competitive advantage, comes from the dynamic strategy that puts that instrument to work.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought. In today's world, a world that's dominated by open source collaboration and the mind-blowing innovation of AI, is this idea of a patent as a flexible, strategic toolkit, is it possible it's not just relevant, but more critical than ever before?